All right, class of 2018 in the His House. Everyone here? Did everyone get a handout at the front? All right, well, if you didn't, I recommend you go grab one, take some notes, got some dates. Great. So welcome to Petition 101. The purpose of this meeting is to not rehash what you have already heard and what is available on many, many handouts and websites. It's more to allow the representatives of each journal to answer questions about what the petition process is like. That said, in case you haven't maybe looked at those materials, we are going to give you a really quick primer about what the petition is, what the 2 weeks will look like, and what the events leading up to it are. So, as you see, we're going to talk about selection criteria really quickly. Each journal, we, the MREs, are going to, and we'll introduce ourselves in a sec, are going to kind of briefly go over. Then we're going to talk about the petition, and then we'll get to the discussion. So I'm Mary Heath. I'm one of the managing and research editors, and then I'll introduce my colleagues. Come on up.
I'm Kristen McGabber. I'm one of the other managing and research editors.
I'm Julia Glenn. I'm the same thing.
All right, let's get started. Yeah.
Can you click me?
Oh, thank you.
So this is information that you guys have in your packet, and also, next one. There you go. Have in your packet, and it's also on the website, but we just wanted to post it up here. This PowerPoint is going to be available online too. Each journal has different weighting for certain portions of the petition. So this is what that is. They have different amounts of staffer positions open. I'm not going to go through the specifics. I think you guys can read, but we just wanted to point that out. The two components of the petition are the Blue Book exercise and the case comment. And then the petition also involves a personal statement, and if you choose to release your grades, that will also be counted for certain positions on certain journals. And I think that's it. That's all I got.
So now we're just going to briefly walk through each of the journals, what you're required to do as a staffer, what they're looking for in a personal statement, and who to contact for journal-specific questions. So first, we have Law Review. Today on the panel, we have Alicia. She's the editor-in-chief this year. So basically, the staffer responsibilities on Law Review, there are 6 issues published each year. You will be responsible for a site check, which we'll give you an example of later, for each issue. Plus, you'll be responsible for 1, maybe 2 second reads, which is going over the whole article later with different criteria. You also have the opportunity to publish online on the De Novo blog, and you have to write a student note. Basically, the personal statement requirement is very open. They just want you to reflect upon anything that would make you a genuine staffer, good staffer on Law Review. And if you have any questions specifically, you can reach out to Alicia. Alicia, do you have anything to add to those 3 things?
Just briefly, I wanted to add that last week the new journal rankings from Washington and Lee University came out, and Law Review was rated number 9, so we moved up from number 11, which was very exciting.
9 in the nation?
9 in the nation.
Just wanted to make sure.
Thank you. All right, so we have the illustrious tort director, Tim Joyce, from the Journal of Law, Science, and Technology. So on that journal, they publish 2 issues each year. You have 2 final reads. You have required blog posts, which is different than, for instance, Law Review. And then, of course, as is all the journals, you have to write a note your second year, which you can submit for publication. So I think one thing Tim mentioned, I know for the moot court, is you do not have to have a hard background in law, science, and technology, but in your personal statement, you should consider explaining why you have an interest in that area. Tim, any additions?
Just that when the rankings came out, we've never been ranked in energy before. We're ranked number 1.
Boom.
Okay,
In
so Katie is the EIC of International Law, and she's here today. The responsibilities for international law include 2 issues each year, which would be 4 site checks of an article or note that would be in that issue, a required blog submission, just like Law, Science, and Tech, and then a student note, which is a requirement for all the journals. Their personal statement, they're interested in having you discuss your interest in international law, and that can be pretty broad, so you can talk about pretty much anything that relates to international law, and we've listed a couple things here, such as trade, economics, human rights, environment, politics, pretty much anything. And Katie is here, not Amy. Do you have anything to add?
It's great. The end. The Journal of Law and Inequality. So for staffers, there are 2 issues published each year, but you are required to 3 to 4 site checks. They do have an online blog, like the others have said, but you're not required to publish, like law review. You are responsible for a student note, personal statement. That's what they're looking for. You don't have to personally have experienced a situation with inequality, but you have to be able to recognize that that exists and explain how you could be a beneficial tool. And this is Boyan, and he is the executive editor next year. So, do you have anything to add?
You can look up our rankings. I'm not going to talk about our rankings.
And
All right, and then last of the 5 student-edited journals is the ABA Journal of Labor and Employment Law, led by the amazing Paige Houghton. Paige, wave to the crowd. So they publish 3 issues each year. You also are required to have a student note, but they're a little unique in that they only take 9 students because you have 2 faculty editors as well, because it is with the ABA. So obviously an interest in labor and employment law is encouraged in your personal statement. Paige, anything to add?
Yeah, so we do the personal statement, which is only 20%, but in that you can talk about your interest in employment law, but also just employment itself, whether you've had a job, how that job has affected you in law school, anything like that, just to show any broad interest.
Great. All right, so those are the 5 student-edited journals. Although there are 5 different journals, it is one petition process, and then you rank the journals based on, they will grade, and then the anonymous process, we will put your scores in order, and then you will rank which journal, and then it's kind of like a matching system. All right.
so the first portion of the petition itself that we're going to talk about is the blue booking exercise. Last year it was 8 pages of blue booking sources that you had to decipher and correct. I'm about to show you an example of what a site check looks like that you will do as a staffer. You're just going to take a deep breath. It will make sense. If you have any questions about site checking symbols, what you're graded on, how to go about doing this strategically, we encourage you to come to one of these sections that are coming up.
And if you can't attend the one that's your section, you're more than welcome to attend a different section.
Yeah. This is a site check that I did this year for my journal. Basically, what's below the line is what you will be responsible for on the petition, but just to show you as a staffer in general, you'll be doing above and below the line edits. Yeah. But yeah, if you have any questions at all about the symbols, how to go about this, please come to those sessions. We'll help you with that.
Okay, so in addition to the blue book, which is worth 30% of your score, so I hope you've been listening to your legal writing instructors, there is a case comment, which as you see is 70%, so it is the vast majority of your points are going to come from this. What is a case comment? Essentially, we have conducted all of the research for you. It is a closed research assignment. We're going to give you about 200 pages, a little more, maybe a little less, we haven't quite figured that out yet, of materials with one case at the very beginning that you are supposed to write a comment on. So we will provide you consider maybe framing an argument such as, this was not decided correctly because, or this was decided correctly, however, the court should have come to this decision by using this standard instead of this standard. So it does not require you to have any particular knowledge because all the research is done. Your job is to read it, to understand it, and then to write a 20-page comment with a very specific structure we'll teach you how to do. 10 of it is above the line, so like Julia showed, this is the line, so above the line, that's the substantive, and then 10 pages below the line, and that's your citations with the blue book. So, go ahead.
The structure of this, we'll go through that at the strategy session. It's on your key dates. We'll break down the case comment in more specifically. So this is just a broad overview just so you know what to expect.
But if any of you are eager beavers and you're like, I don't understand any of these words, if you go to the minnesotalawreview.org membership page, which is on that sheet you have before you, it's been in every email, It is in the journal information packet. If you go to that membership tab, it has all of the information about all 5 journals, and it also has sample case comments from last year. So feel free to read those in your spare time.
There's one here.
Perfect. Yeah, so
This is from last year. It was the students. It's basically, we do endnotes so that you can clarify that there are 10 above and 10 below easier. But there's above the line and then,
I know. too
sorry,
fast.
close your eyes.
So
And here's below the line. But those are all online. So if you want to take a peek at those, feel free. Otherwise, come to the strategy session and don't take a peek before. Fine. I don't know how to start this. Okay.
Yeah.
So on top of the case comment and the blue booking part, there are other things that can be considered for staff positions, as we discussed way earlier. For some positions, different journals take into account your grades, but you do not have to release your grades. That's totally up to you. When you're ranking, you can opt into releasing your grades. But if you don't, you won't be considered for those positions. So for example, if there are 40 positions and 9 of them are only considered by by petition score and grades, and you didn't opt in to share your grades, then you won't be considered for those positions, so keep that in mind. Also, personal statements, they're weighted differently depending on the journal, but they go into consideration for some positions. Also, a big part of this is testing your ability to follow directions. This does allow for some creative thought, but really it's like, can you do what we ask you to do? So make sure you read the instructions, follow the directions, do what's asked of you. And a big part of the directions is that this is an anonymous process. You'll be given a number. You're not allowed to talk about this with any of your friends, your parents, your roommate, us, unless you have a question. Like no one. No one should know that you're writing about this, anything of the source. It's an honor code violation. So just keep that in mind. We will go over that again later. This is an anonymous process. Anything? Okay.
Okay, so this is just basically a preview of the timeline and things that you should be aware of for upcoming logistics. So the petition period is going to begin the day after your last final at 4:30, and then it will end on June 1st at 4:30. All of your materials will need to be turned in by 4:30. You have 2 weeks within this time frame or until that time, June 1st at 4:30, whichever comes first. So what'll happen is you'll go and pick up your petition, you'll mark off your name, you'll sign off, and then the person who gives you your petition, the staffer or editor for next year that is giving you your petition, will tell you when it needs to be back by. So when you pick it up, it's like an 8-hour exam. You know, if I picked it up at 8:30, I would need to have it back by 4:30. So just keep that in mind. If you pick it up later and you don't have 2 weeks and that June 1st deadline hits, you won't have 2 weeks to pick it up. So make sure that you guys are scheduling appropriately, and you know, if you want to take a day off after your last exam, that's fine. But you know, if you're working or something like that, you might want to think about picking it up maybe right after your last exam.
And just to clarify, if you pick it up on the 11th, you do not have until June 1st. You have 2 weeks. That gets confused.
Yeah, you only have 2 weeks, yeah. For your submissions, you will submit your case comment, a cover sheet, and that ranking sheet that Mary was talking about earlier, so the one where you rank what journals you want to be on in that order. You will submit that via email to MN Petition Submissions, and this will all be in your directions. It's just to kind of get the wheels turning in your head a little bit. You'll submit a personal statement separately to each journal, so those criteria that we talked about earlier, that the things they're looking for, you'll submit each one separately to each journal, and the email will be in your directions in your packet. And your blue booking exercise, that 30% portion of the petition that Julia talked about, that will need to be turned in hard copy. So if you're going to be here, that's great. You'll just drop it off on the second floor in the journal office. If you're not going to be here, you need to send that via certified mail. So keep that in mind. Remember that depending on where you're going to be. Just keep that in mind. Don't forget that. You cannot hand in a scanned version. You cannot email the blue booking. It needs to be sent hard copy. Yeah.
Is it considered turned in a date that it's postmarked?
Yes, I think so.
Yes.
Yes.
if you have questions about that or questions, during the petition or at any time, really email mmpetitionquestions@gmail.com. During the petition period, we'll try and get back to you at least within 24 hours. So really, if you have any questions about anything, that's the place to go.
All right, so now for the main event. We are just going to ask a few questions to get the lay of the land on what these lovely folks did for their petition. If you have any additional questions, keep them till the end. We should have plenty of time for a few questions. So, the first one
is the one who does it all, and then it gets sent to them.
Alicia, if you wouldn't mind starting, why did you choose journal over moot court?
I just want you to be able to see that.
I think that there's good things to say about both, but I picked journal because I like writing and I like working with a team to publish something. At the end of the year, you have, at law review, you have 6 tangible issues that you worked on and you really felt involved for every step of the process. And it's really a community. I really am thrilled with my decision, and I think I speak for a lot of people that journal is a really good choice. Excuse me, I'm a little bit sick. Choice.
I chose journal over moot court because I wanted to choose very specifically what I spent a lot of time researching as a 2L, and the journal seemed the best way for me to research equity crowdfunding.
I can echo a lot of what has already been said, because most of the journals have, I guess all except law review, are very specific in what topic you cover, and so you spend a lot of time researching whatever the respective topic is. But something I really was drawn to about journal was blue booking, which sounds crazy, but to me it's like coloring, and so it's like doing a Sudoku puzzle or something. So I like the rules and I like blue booking and I like it looking perfect when I submit it. So that's something that I really liked, and it's helped a ton at my job. So I want to be a trial lawyer, which very easily could have translated into doing moot court, but I write briefs, and the attorneys that I work for are very impressed with the ability that I have now to look through their briefs and correct all of their citations. So for me, it's been great for both my interest in international law and to be a trial lawyer, to know the blue book.
Not to sound like a broken record, but my reasons are pretty well aligned with my peers. I wanted to write. I figured that I'll be writing for the next 30 or 40 years, and the best way to practice that would be to be in an intensive writing environment like a journal. And I was lucky to end up on a journal where I could write about something I deeply care about, which always helps. Not that you can't do that in every journal, but if you're considering a special topic, picking a journal that aligns to what you want to talk about or write about or think about, it helps, and it certainly helped me. And I didn't think that I could get that in a moot court. Yeah. In addition, I'm pretty sure I want to do transactional work, which with my limited understanding of what journalists or journal members do, I thought was better aligned with transactional work. It turns out you could probably do both, but for me personally, it was journal or bust.
Mine is quite similar. I didn't have a lot of writing experience in college. I had general writing experience. I was political science, so you just write papers, but nothing really legally that would help me if you want to eventually go and practice. And so I wanted to spend as many hours as I could my second year getting prepared for that, and also for my, the job I do after second year. And I think being on a journal has really helped with that.
Did you work and or have other commitments during the petition period? Tim, would you mind starting us off?
I sure planned on working during the petition period. I had the job lined up. I was all ready to go in. I sat down with my blue booking exercise, spent a whole day on it, and called the office and asked if I could have 2 weeks off. My in-laws were also in town for a couple of days, so I lost a couple. I think when it came down to it, I had exactly 10 days. So I split it out as full work days, 3 days to the blue booking exercise, 7 days to the case comment.
I did not. My employer also wanted me to start that Monday after finals, and I said, well, I need at least the first week, and then sort of what Tim did, and I said, I need 2 weeks. I will start Monday after the 2-week blue booking. So I picked it up the day after my property final, and then went to work that first Monday and left work immediately here and turned in the blue book. So that was the end of my 2 weeks, my first day of work.
I did not work during the 2 weeks. I worked for Professor Weisbrod, and he insisted that I take the full weeks, the 2 full weeks. I ended up not needing them. I finished in 12 days, so it was nice to watch Netflix for 2 days. Does this work?
Yeah, it's working.
I was like,
I didn't pick up the petition right away. I took 2 days off after finals, and then I picked it up. I worked the last week, but I found that it was, as long as I did 6 hours a day for the whole time that I had it, I found that to be enough.
I did some freelance editing work before I picked it up, then had my 2 weeks to just work on the petition, and then moved to Duluth the next day. So it was a little bit stressful trying to pack while I was finishing my petition, but it all worked out.
Mary, didn't you?
So I am the person who made really poor choices. Sorry, so you can see me. I worked and I moved during the petition period, and it ended up fine. Here I am on a journal, and happy for it. So for those of you who, I think if it is in your power to defer, to call up your employer and say, I really do need the 2 weeks. Most attorneys know what a petition is, and most attorneys recognize that being on journal means something. So they're gonna encourage you. But if that's not possible, it wasn't possible for me. It is still possible to turn it in at a time to, get on one of the journals that you're hoping you can get on. So yeah, I moved and I worked, and I'm alive. So.
Okay, how did you manage your time? How did you allocate between the case comment, the blue book, and the personal statement? I know Tim kind of touched on this a little bit, but Katie?
Sure. I spent most of the time doing the case comment because I wanted to make sure I really understood what I was arguing. And then I saved the blue booking for last, which a lot of people like to do first to get out of the way, but I like it. That was the more fun part for me, so I did that at the end. But I worked on it a little bit at a time so I could go back and revisit the more I was writing my case comment and doing the end notes, the more I felt like I was comfortable using the blue book. So then I was really familiar when it came time to really finish the blue book exercise. So mine wasn't delegated out like Tim's was. I sort of did them simultaneously.
I spent the first day, the full day, just organizing myself. I made an Excel spreadsheet with all of the sources because it was important to me that I use all of the sources, because that was, I don't know if you guys are going to stress that you should be using as many sources as possible, but I wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anything. So the first day was literally sorting through all the materials, reading cursorily like what was actually given to me, and then figuring out how I was going to allocate that time. So the first day I organized, and then I wrote my comment the next day, and then every other day I did 2 pages of blue booking. So I interspersed everything, and it worked out just fine. I was done, as I said, at day 12, with 3 full days at the end to devote to the case comment to make sure it was tight and neat and nice. So.
Can I add to that? I did the blue book citations for all of the materials that were given, kind of like what Boyan said, to look at them first. I had all of that ready to go before I started inserting the citations into the comment. So all the citations were ready when I needed to copy them down.
Yeah, I had a column for blue book citations. So then when I cited to that source, I didn't have to worry about whether it was correct. I just copied it into the footnote.
I did my blue booking first, one because I thought it was more enjoyable. And also, it really helped me learn the blue book by the time I got to the case comment. I used the blue book sparingly in legal writing. I didn't use it as heavily as you do your second year. And I found that by the time I got to my citing my cases for the case comment, that I was at least well-versed enough where it was efficient using the blue book, because I did the first 2.5 days just using blue book.
So I did it a little differently. I dove into the case comment and got pretty absorbed in writing that. And then with half a week left, I was like, oh, right, the blue book. I think it is maybe a better idea to intersperse it. The way that Boyan did it sounds like a really good plan, but it worked out to do for the second half of the last week to just try to get through 2 pages a day at the end of my writing, which was fine.
And I spoke a little bit about it, but I picked it up on the last possible day to still give myself 2 weeks. And I spent the week after finals and before picking up the petition getting to know what's in the blue book, because like Paige, I wasn't very familiar with what was there going in. So that really helped me feel comfortable. And that's why I started with the blue booking as well, to sort of rip the Band-Aid off. I was really nervous going into the petition because I had never written anything that substantial before. That helped me sort of ease into it.
When and where did you petition? Did it take you the whole 2 weeks? Katie? No, Boya? I forget where we're supposed to start. Sorry, that's my job.
It did not take me 2 weeks. As I said, it took me 12 days. I petitioned in all sorts of places. I worked from my home office. I went to coffee shops. I visited the library in the summer. So, yeah, I don't really need a place to hole up personally. So.
I was similar to Boyan. I took the whole 2 weeks, but I did half days, so it was more bearable. I did just a little bit of everywhere. My birthday was on one of the days, so I spent half a day petitioning at Lake Calhoun, which was okay.
I did take the whole 2 weeks, but I didn't work on it 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day. There's a lot of things, social things happening right after finals, so I took off time to do that. For the first week or so, I went to my cabin and just hung out and read articles at the lake, which was pretty nice if you got to do it. And then I came back here and finished for the second week.
Right in the middle of our petition, or when I picked it up, was Memorial Day, so that's when my in-laws came to town. So about 4 days in between there made it so that I only had 10 days. I did most of my petitioning at home. If I had to do it over again, I would do it someplace with less distractions, like TV and cat and wife and, all kinds of things that come through. So if you have those, ignore those for 2 weeks, and it's sure to turn out fine.
Yours turned out fine too.
Yeah, she's okay. She still likes me.
I did all of mine at home. So I'm comfortable on my couch. I spread everything out on the coffee table and left it there. So whatever you want to do. But then I left to go do fun things. So I felt like I was committed when I was home, and then I could leave to go out to dinner or go on a walk, be outside, and then leave the petition at home.
You'd be surprised how much motivation you get to clean once the petition is in your hands. I cleaned a lot.
My
worst.
apartment.
It was great. And that's why I had to leave. I went to coffee shops.
Just to speak to the other side, for if there's anyone out there like me, I worked about 15 hours a day on the petition. I read every word of every source and made a spreadsheet, and I psyched myself out 100%. I worked in Piercing Hall, room 40, 2 weeks straight, and I'm alive. That's what I had to do to feel like I was doing my best. So if you are someone who knows like taking a walk, which sounds lovely, would stress you out, you don't have to do those things, and you can go through not the best time for 2 weeks and do great. But you can do those things too. Just don't feel bad that you're not doing those things. If that makes any sense.
Also a side note, so the pens you're going to be using for the Blue Book exercise are erasable. They're special erasable pens. Do not leave your Blue Book exercise in the sunlight because that ink will start to disappear.
Oh no.
So like don't.
That's what it's the heat. That's why they're erasable, because the friction makes it
disappear. So just don't
Friction.
Don't leave it by a window, whatever. Like you can do your stuff outside, and that's fine. But like don't leave it in the sunlight for several hours.
Or you could just sit
You're the
in Piercing
tech
Hall
guy,
for
you're
2
supposed
weeks.
to.
Yeah.
Where there's no sun.
No sunlight. All right.
Or any kind of heat. The reason they work is because they're called friction pens. It's friction. So when you rub the eraser part on what you've written, that the heat is what makes it turn invisible. And so any heat will make your Blue Book exercise disappear.
Right about that?
It's so crazy lucky now.
So that's, can we see this picture? It works. Can we see this? How do I do it? So that's all the questions we had prepared. If you have any questions at all, we have like a while. If you have questions about like what you want to hear from them about their journals, petition process in general, what you should be doing to prepare, what you shouldn't be doing to prepare,
Oh, no.
stuff like that.
Can I just say, on the erasable pens, are you guys providing those?
No.
Okay, you should go buy an erasable pen. They have them at the bookstore, and they're $2.99. And trust me, you want one, because I tried to do it without an erasable pen, and I cried once, so.
We're going to show examples of them at the the blue booking breakout sessions, so if you have no idea what we're talking about.
It's okay.
Kate, you had a question?
I've heard you can use .05 or .07, and I think it's a really specific question. I don't know if you guys had a preference.
0.05 is smaller, right?
Yeah.
I like those.
I would use the 0.05 because you're going to be writing a lot of rules and symbols. And I got the 0.07, and I'm a big handwriter, and the margins were, I don't know, it's tough. I would get the smaller ball pen.
I had the bigger one, I think I was fine.
Yeah.
But it's probably personal preference.
You can try it out. Get one of each.
You can also buy packets of the pens at some of the,
The Target has one.
yeah, at any of the big stores, and I split them because they're expensive pens. So I bought a packet, and a couple of friends, we had split the price and then just divvied up the pens.
Anybody?
So we need to make the personal statement along with the petition, right?
So you'll turn in your petition to, and then petition submissions, whatever that exact address is. Your personal statements will go to the respective journals. So, respective journals. You have to send them to each one individually.
So if you go on the website, there's something called sample instructions, which are literally last year's instructions, which I wrote and read. Do not use these for this year. But if you go on there, for instance, Lynn, you'll see that it'll essentially be most of what will be on this year. So those kind of like little technicalities aren't often best communicated in a large hall like this. So I encourage you to go to that website and come to the special sessions.
Yeah, we'll tell you again at the strategy session how to submit everything. Yeah. Kayla.
How much time did you guys spend writing a personal statement?
About 20 minutes,
Yeah.
if we're being honest. I would have loved to spend a lot more, but I felt like I could say what I wanted to say in about a page in about 20 minutes.
I spent a lot of time on mine, but I also wrote them ahead of time. Yeah, you can do that. So,
Strategy.
you know, it was something to do ahead of time to make me feel like I was working on my petition, not during my 2 weeks. So they were ready to go before I ever picked up the petition. Also, I have another suggestion about anonymity. A lot of us have your signature block automatically show up in new emails. Shut that off. Because if you submit your, what?
Sorry, continue.
If you shut off your automatic signature, then that's safer to make sure that your submission to the petition submissions email doesn't have your signature block in it.
Yeah, it is not the end of the world though if you forget, because everything goes to not us, it goes to Kent, the amazing journal god who gets everything. So I know that was a concern last year. In the event that you forget, it is not, no need to, you are not automatically disqualified, but it is a good idea.
And if you breach the anonymity, just to make it the statement one more time, in any way, shape, or form, you are disqualified.
Yeah.
So that's a concern. That's a valid concern to have.
Absolutely.
Brandon.
How does Memorial Day play into turning into a blue book exercise and then any person or like mailing it since things will be closed and I doubt people will be.
We will have staffers. We will send out a sheet to you with staffers. I know I will be here and I'm willing to work Memorial Day because I have no life. So
There'll be a sheet posted on the website that says when the office is open for you to come pick up and drop off. And it'll also be located on the membership page, that link that we've been telling you is everywhere. You can go and look at that, but it'll be posted on the door. It's in the second floor of the library. If you've never been over there by the Carols and that lovely little reading section area, we'll post it on that door. It'll be online, and it'll also be in your directions. So those are 3 places to look for when and where you need to
And
submit.
if you're mailing it, if you're worried about well, the mail gets delayed, it goes off the certified date that you send it. So even if we get it a few days behind your 2 weeks, as long as it says that you turned it in.
Rachel, did you have a question?
I just compared Boyan's plan earlier, and it seemed to be highly regarded by everyone else. Could you say it again, Boyan?
For
I
what
think how you
plan?
did your
How
blue
he
book.
did it, like how he,
Your spreadsheet.
like how you did your petition process.
Sure. I spent the first day organizing myself, so I created a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet, which had like the source number, the author's name, title, one column with just in my own words, what it said, the Blue Book citation to that source, and then I don't remember what the last column was.
Like used or not used or something?
Yeah, it was used, quotes, and then used or not used, and it was fancy. If I pressed yes, it would turn green. If I pressed no, it was red. Anyway, I'm stupid. But then what I did after that is I spent the next day writing or starting to write. Then every other day I did 2 pages of Blue Book, and then the other days I wrote. So I didn't really have full days. I worked 9 to 3 usually. So, and I finished by day 12.
But if you want like a different perspective, I didn't read some of the sources. So I literally read the cases and the law reviews, and then I would find different snippets, and I didn't make a spreadsheet or anything. I just kind of rolled with it. But I had papers all over my apartment and had marked, because I'm a tactile learner, so I like to have paper and highlight and write a bunch of stuff. So mine was more paper oriented. But I didn't read all the sources, but I used them all.
Other questions? Yeah.
Is there a specific reason we're handwriting all the Blue Book things and that there's not another way to, for example, electronically annotate?
So the big reason is because it is significantly harder to cheat if you have to do it by hand. And there are always people disqualified almost every year for something of that nature. We take the honor code very seriously. It is an honor code violation, and it could go to the dean's office if you violate one of the instructions. And one of the ways we try to help you help yourself is by doing it by hand. The other reason is because some of the journals still do require you to do a hand copy, because you tend to be a better site checker when you do it by hand than if you're reading it on a computer screen. So that's something that every year we talk about. Should we continue to do this? And every year, as in this year, we decided, let us help you help yourselves. I think you'll find it's a lot easier to catch if something is italicized or not if you're doing it by hand than if you're doing it on a computer screen.
It's also easier for us to grade.
That too.
That's throwing that out there. Yeah. And honestly, it's a nice break. I mean, maybe not for everyone, but to look away from your screen for a day or two. I don't know.
No.
I thought it was a nice break.
Yeah. I thought the Blue Booking was kind of fun.
I did too. You will find it fun.
Oh, I have a friend who picked up and completed the petition and never turned it in. She decided she wanted to do moot court, but she's so thankful that she did it because it helped her be successful in moot court because she learned a Blue Book. So that's an option too if you want to just mess around with it a little bit and then not turn it in. You're not out anything except the time you committed to learn the Blue Book.
And you have a writing sample
Yeah.
that's
Yes.
not your maybe possibly crappy spring break.
Yeah.
No offense.
It's also, there are quite a few people, even if you're considering it, we would definitely encourage you to just pick it up. Take a peek. It sounds really scary, but once you have it, it's not as intimidating.
It's anonymous, so we'll never know if you choose not to turn it in. So it doesn't hurt you to pick it up. It's 10 minutes of your life.
Yeah. Any other questions?
If you guys do have personal questions or ones that you don't want to ask here, you can email petition questions, or you can come up here and chat with our panelists. Thank you guys for coming.
Thanks for coming, guys.